Hey guys, it's me Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here with a seasonal horror recommendation list and also a couple wintry seeming horror books that I'd like to read this season. I did a summer list like this, obviously this summer, and I feel like it was pretty well received. So I really am super excited to share these winter picks with you guys. First up with my recommendations, the first one I'd like to talk about is Hark, the Herald Angels Scream. This is an anthology. It was edited by Christopher Golden. If you've watched a good amount of my YouTube videos, you might have heard me say before that I don't really tend to give anthologies and short story collections very high ratings because I feel like so many of them are hit or miss. But this anthology really surprised me. I ended up liking almost all of the stories. I don't think that there was one in here that I really thought was not good. You know, a lot of them were super good. My favorite story in here was Not Just for Christmas by Sarah Lotz. It was a story about these like robot dogs that people start getting for Christmas, and it's got a really kind of ironic ending, and I really like that one. But there are more very good stories in this. Like I said, I don't think there was one that I like actively disliked, so it's pretty goddamn good for a short story collection. The next one I'd like to talk about is Stranded by Bracken McLeod. This takes place on some sort of ship in the ocean. I can't remember exactly if it's like a cargo ship or a fishing ship. I think it might be fishing, but I don't know, I could be lying. They are in the ocean, way high up on the globe, and they're trying to make their way to an oil platform when this storm comes along. The ship eventually gets stuck in ice. Some of the crew members start coming down with some sort of strange illness, and there's this really dense like fog. And after a couple days, you know, they're like, we've got to do something or we're gonna die here. It's freezing, we have limited supplies, and eventually the fog kind of clears and they can see a shape way far off on the ice. So the main character gets picked kind of to go see what that shape is in the water, and that's where the story takes off. And this really had a weird twist that I did not see coming at all. It was really interesting. I can't say that I enjoyed the ending too much, but I do think that this book could be thoroughly enjoyed by many people. I liked it. Like I said, I just didn't really like the ending, but it was a good one. A really great, atmospheric, freezing book. Like, you'll want to be wearing footy pajamas when you read this. Next up, I have The Shining by Stephen King. I know most of you out there have heard of this, watched the movie, or read this, but I cannot stress enough how good I thought this book was. It is so atmospheric. It feels like, you know, in, what am I trying to think, like Indiana Jones or Army of Darkness, where you're in one of those rooms and the walls start closing in on you very slowly. That's what it feels like reading this book. There's like this impending doom, this really heavy feeling when you're reading this, and it takes place mostly over the winter. A family, they are the caretakers in a hotel way up in the Colorado mountains. They have to stay there over the winter months. There's no way for them, besides like snowmobiles, to get down to the town a few miles away from the hotel. So they're pretty much stranded up there, and there's lots of snowstorms. There's the feeling of isolation and being up on this mountain knowing that if something goes wrong, there's not really much that you can do about it. And this is such a great book, one of my favorites by Stephen King, and I would definitely recommend this. Next, I have another book that I've talked about a couple of times on my channel. This is Ararat by Christopher Golden. I just mentioned him because he edited Hark, the Herald Angels Scream. So this is one of his novels, and this is about, oh man, where do I even start with this? It's kind of survival horror-y. It's kind of supernatural. There's lots of tension in this, and this is about a exploration crew who is going to explore this cave that just was discovered on Mount Ararat. There was a giant avalanche on the mountain, and then this cave was like uncovered. So this exploration team goes up there, but they're not the only people up there. There's also like priests and archaeologists and all sorts of like scientific and religious crews, because they think that they found the remains of Noah's Ark. And I'm not a religious person, so reading the synopsis and knowing that, I was a tiny bit weary maybe about going into this, because I just like, I don't know, I don't have a high tolerance for a lot of like religious talk in fiction, you know, so I was a little bit weary, like I said, but I don't think that this was too heavy-handed. They find something deep in the depths of this ship. It's like a sarcophagus, and they open it up and there's like a preserved body, but it has horns on it. So, and that's not a spoiler. That's not a spoiler, I promise. There's so much that happens in this book. It is, like I said, full of tension. The people in these different crews don't really know who to trust, because things start going kind of awry up there. It's in the middle of a winter storm, so despite things going awry inside the caves with these different groups of people, there's really no way for anyone to leave the cave without, you know, dying, basically, because descent is always more dangerous. Plus, like I said, there's a crazy storm going on. So it is very atmospheric. Another one of those books that just has a sense of impending doom, and this was a really great one. The ending hit me like a hammer. It was just super good. Okay, and my last recommendation today is Suffer the Children by Craig DeLilly. And this is a book about this illness that starts killing children globally. And that part, oh man, it's such a crazy way to start out a book, because I think this would affect most people, but especially being a parent, it's like, oh man, what would I do? It's awful. And so, you know, we start out with that, this like heavy, dreary, like desperate atmosphere, and then all the children who had died have now come back to life, but they need to be sustained with blood. This was a really great book. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. It takes place over the winter months, like Christmas, New Year's, maybe even Thanksgiving, I don't know. And it really explores like what lengths would you go to take care of your child who needs blood to keep living. And it's really dark. The children in here are so fucking creepy, and some of the parents get really weird, and it is just a romp, I think. Very dark, fun to read, interesting. Like they talk a little bit about the illness itself, which I always find interesting, and it was a great book to read during the winter months. Okay, the next couple books here, I'm gonna have to be a little more vague about because I haven't read them yet, but I'm hoping to get to them sometime during these chilly months. The first one I have here is Maynards House by Herman Raucher. And this is about a Vietnam veteran who comes back from the war to the chilly Maine wilderness where he was left a house by his friend Maynard, who was killed during battle. I don't really know much more than that. The back of the book says that there's some sort of like ancient evil, so I really don't know like what that entails. Like, is this a Wendigo story? Is this about a haunted house? Is this about spirits? I don't know, but I'm very excited to get to this one. This one I already talked about in my TBR for this month if you happen to watch that, but this is The Spirit by Thomas Page, and this is another cold, old, vintage paperback book. This is about two men who are hunting the same monster, and I believe it is a Yeti, and I don't know really much more than that, and that's how I'd like to leave it because I really like to be very surprised about everything I read. This was another one that was obviously in Paperbacks from Hell. This one was reissued by Valancourt Books. I believe it was on the second wave of Paperbacks from Hell books. Not that that matters, but this is one I'm hoping to get to sometime this month even, so we'll see. It looks like it's gonna be a good one. Okay, these next two sort of go hand in hand. This is The Indifferent Stars Above by Daniel James Brown, and also The Hunger by Alma Katsu. And these are a nonfiction and a fictional account of what happened to the Donner Party. And if for some reason you haven't heard of the Donner Party, they were a group of people during like the pioneer days when people were trying to get out west to claim land, to claim their fortune, and they took a supposed shortcut through the mountains, and they cut it too close to wintertime. There was a bunch of things that went terribly wrong during their expedition, and eventually they got stranded in the mountains during the winter, and some of the surviving members of the party made the decision to eat their deceased team members. So, this is a nonfiction account of that. I've heard good things about this, and since the majority of the story happens during the winter months, I thought that both The Indifferent Stars Above and Alma Katsu's fictional account of that, I believe that this is more supernatural, but I felt that both of these are perfect for reading in winter. I'm not sure which order I'm going to read these in, so if you, I don't know, like, do I want to read the real story first and then the fictional? Or the fictional and then the real story? I don't know. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do that. And the last book I'd like to get to during these winter months is The Ascent by Ronald Malfi. This is another one I talked about in my December TBR because I'm hoping to read this month. And this is another book that takes place on the mountains, which I like it. I love it. It's one of my things that I love most in books. And this is about a man who goes climbing. They're trying to summit a mountain in Nepal, and judging by the synopsis on the inner cover of the book, something supernatural happens, which is just, I love it. I feel like that's like all these books here. So, supernatural shit happening in the winter, that's my jam. I'm excited about this one as well. So those are my recommendations, and also a few books I'd like to get to in this winter season. Let me know if you've read any of these, as always, if you have any opinions on them. I'm really curious about Specifically, I think if anyone's read The Hunger, because I've heard a lot of this and that on it. I'm curious as to how much I will like it. Hopefully a lot. Hopefully I'll love it, because I know a lot of people loved it. Yeah, I'm rambling. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you stay super warm, unless you're living somewhere where it's warm now. In that case, I hope you stay cool. I don't know, just like stay comfortable, okay? And turn on your fireplaces and roast some chestnuts. I don't know. Merry winter solstice. Merry crisis. Merry fucking Christmas. I don't know. Whatever you guys celebrate, I hope you have a great one. But of course, I will see you before then. So watch for me. I'll be here. I will see you guys later. Bye!